Huge thank you to Fiverr for sponsoring this video. I'm very excited to finally share 10 different illustrations that are based on scenes from Lost Island Press books. This video has been a long time in the making because I had to place 10 different orders on Fiverr and then coordinate back and forth between the artists and the authors, which takes time because art takes time. So what I think we'll do for this video is we'll just go through each book in order of publication, and then either myself or the author is going to jump in to share some context about the actual art. Before I dive into showing you all of the really amazing art, I have a couple of quick announcements to make. I recently released the cover for Avarium, which is a new book that I'm working on in my Belladonna series, and I am obsessed with the cover. It's still quite early in development, but if you want a chance at being in the beta reading team, make sure that you're on our newsletter. And then second of all, we are opening submissions again on October 1st, and I cannot wait because at least one writer is going to land a publishing deal with us early next year. More information about that on lostislandpress.com/submissions. But anyways, let's dive into some art, shall we? So first up, we have this illustration by Anna on Fiverr, and I'm going to have all of these links in the description below to these artists. Benji grows up in this town called Wishville, and no one ever leaves. Everyone has this idea that if you leave town, you die. In the first chapter of the book, Benji tries to leave past the bridge, which is the only way out of town, and his friends show up to stop him. And so that's the illustration that we see here. I wanted to really show the different personalities in this shot. So we have Chloe, who's concerned, Sam, who finds the whole thing really funny, and then James, who is a little stern and pissed off about the whole ordeal. And I think Anna did such an incredible job. I just love the art style so much, and I posted this one on Instagram, and a lot of people really love the style too. And next up, we have this illustration for Capsule. Of my own books, I think Capsule is probably the most read because we give it away for free on our newsletter. It's about a dangerous app that downloads itself onto Jackie's phone and threatens to kill 2 of her classmates. And so those are the 3 main characters. We have Jackie, who is like the player, and then we have these 2 characters whose lives are being threatened, and all 3 of them are working to beat this game within 24 hours. This is one of the levels they have to beat at Lawton Heights Campground, which is a location that I actually based on this beach near where I grew up in Northern California called Bodega Head, where they kind of had these big jagged cliffs and then the ocean down below. The location itself feels very much like home to me. The artist for this one was Fernando, and he did such an incredible job. Like, you can see all of the different shards of grass. If you zoom in, it's just crazy detailed.
Hi, my name is Shira Bahor. I am the author of My Brother Spare and the Lost Island Press 2020 Writing Competition winner. My Brother Spare follows the story of Valeria Anson, the daughter of a Viscount who is trying to solve her mother's decade-long murder. Somewhere along the line, she decides to team up with Alias Black, a renowned and heartless hitman who is looking for a killer of his own. The scene I chose to have illustrated happens towards the midpoint of the story. I won't give a specific chapter so you don't anticipate it, but it is the first time that Valeria and Alias have a major confrontation, and it's where we see their views on morality and justice really clash. Not only do we get a sense of who they are and what they believe in, but they really get a sense of themselves and each other. My Brother Spare explores themes such as morality, dreams, reality, and the thin line between justice and revenge. If you're a fan of political dark mysteries, then this might be a book for you.
Next up, we have The Memory Jumper by Amanda Michelle Brown. And this is a futuristic retelling of Rapunzel in which the main character is not kept captive in a tower, but underground.
Hi there, my name is Amanda Brown, and I am the author of The Memory Jumper. I wanted to share with you guys why I chose the scene that I did to be created by an artist, a beautiful piece of artwork. As someone who's very soft-spoken myself, I always thought it really, really exciting just to write a scene where, for once someone stands up for themselves. My main character, Adelaide, gets something very important taken away from her hair. In the past, she stayed silent. The combination of everything that she's been through in her life and the way that her stepmother, Fawn, treats her, she breaks, and yet she is also reborn. And in that moment, she decides something has to change. She cannot allow herself to be treated this way anymore. For me, that's just a really exciting moment in the book because we love a good character arc, and I hope that you guys enjoy the art and enjoy my novel.
So now we're moving on to our fifth piece for Lone Player. This is the first book in our first ever series at Lost Island Press. The story takes place in a futuristic world in which every baby is tattooed with playing cards on each wrist. Overpopulation is a big problem, and so to keep numbers in check, once a year, there is an event called the Pick, in which 2 cards are drawn from a deck, and everyone with those tattoos are exterminated.
Hi, it's Julia, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about why I chose these scenes for the artwork we had done for Lone Player and Kadek. So first of all, we have the Ren and Eddie cow scene. I grew up in Northern California, wine country. We have cows everywhere. And so as a kid, anytime we would drive past cow fields, I would always point out the cows and get so excited about them. My grandma used to moo at cows through the window. I've always felt this special little connection to cows, so I put it in the book. Ren and Eddie are ex-childhood best friends who had a falling out. They are both going through so much, and it just gets crazier and crazier. All this chaos and this super corrupt society, they're just having this really special moment of peace in the cow field. It's kind of a turning point for their relationship where they kind of realize they don't hate each other as much as they pretended to. I'm obsessed.
Now we are moving on to another one of my books, which is Nightshade Academy. So the art that I ended up choosing is the ballroom scene. And this is kind of an anomaly in the book because most of the story takes place at a military boarding school in which there is a lot of martial arts and competition and academic stress. This is kind of the first time in the story where the characters get a little bit of calm in their lives. But the main character, Yashi, is quite stressed during this ballroom scene, even though it's supposed to be a nice moment for him. And his friend Vel ends up dancing with him in order to whisper and warn him that he's being watched. So that's why we have these 3 silhouettes looming in the background and watching them.
So the next piece of artwork that we have is actually for Eddie and Aaron this time. There's kind of a love triangle. He and Eddie kind of start out with this friendship, and they bicker all the time and they get on each other's nerves, and at the same time though, they're very, very, very close friends. They get to this point where they're stuck in a cave together in Cut Deck, which is book 2. He is recovering from a bullet wound in his leg and he has an infection, so he's kind of fever dreaming. She's tending to his wounds, and he says something about how, she's so nice to look at. It's kind of the first time as the reader you see him say anything out loud about the way he might feel for Eddie. And the first time she starts thinking it's just Aaron, why am I getting all flustered? Ooh, So yeah, it's one of my favorite Eddie and Aaron scenes. Fun fact, that was actually one of the very first scenes that I wrote in Cut Deck. I still have it in a notebook somewhere. The third scene that I chose for this project is another Eddie and Aaron scene. It takes place during the very end of Cut Deck. The artwork shows the end of an argument between Eddie and Aaron. Lots of tension, lots of grief, lots of anger, hatred, a very intense scene. I get really emotional when I think about it, but at the same time, it's one I always come back to when I'm working on book 3, listening to my playlist, thinking about how, okay, they're yearning for each other, blah, blah, blah. I always picture that fire scene. There's a lot of emotional stuff going on. If you know the context, you know what I'm talking about, but I can't say much about it because spoilers. And I feel like the artist did such a good job of capturing all that.
So the last book that we had illustrations made for is Underground Royalty. I like to call this piece The Waterway, which is an illustration of the waterway. We have this river in a secret cave. There's no light down there. It all comes from bioluminescent fungi, and there's also some silhouettes of toad lilies, which are the only flowers that grow in this location. So the 2 characters on the boat are Arrow and Santi, and they are transporting goods in these cargo boxes. In the story, they end up trapped in the waterway on this boat during a very heated argument. I love both of these characters so much, and all of the scenes that I wrote at the waterway are some of my favorites in terms of the atmosphere and the vibe. This one features Everest and Pinto, who are 2 POV characters. Underground Royalty is the first book in which I actually wrote a real romantic subplot that was, a very big presence in the story. So in this scene, the 2 of them have been traveling kind of on this detective mystery arc on their own for a week, and they end up staying the night at this abandoned house where they finally open up to each other for the first time. I can't say that this is my favorite scene in the book because personally I kind of like writing the scenes in which they don't get along. It's just kind of more fun and interesting for me, but I can admit that this moment is quite sweet and is probably one of the most popular scenes among readers. And that is all for the 10 pieces of art that we had commissioned through Fiverr. I'm going to show all of them on the screen now so that you can pause and kind of check them out in further detail. And once again, I'm going to have all of the artists linked in the description below. I would highly recommend working with any of them, especially if you love their art style. They're all so fun to work with and were very sweet, and I definitely want to work with them again myself. If you're ever in need of art for your own project, graphic design services, or really any type of creative help, I highly recommend checking out Fiverr. They have a massive catalog with freelancers from all over the world who you can work with virtually to bring your ideas to life. I started using their services back in high school, so I have actually over the years worked with over 100 clients as a services provider, and I have hired over 100 freelancers as a buyer, so I really have experience with both sides of the platform. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know that I am a long-term fan of Fiverr. You can use my coupon code MEL10 to get 10% off your order. I'll have a link in the description below. Thank you to Shira, Amanda, and Julia for collaborating with me on this video, and thank you for watching till the end.
Lost Island Press. Get lost.